Hello everyone, Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Deep Down. So I haven't really talked a whole lot about Deep Down, and the reason behind that is because I was really excited when Deep Down got announced at the first PlayStation 4 presentation by Capcom, obviously, and they announced the game, and I was just like, yes, it looks like some kind of really cool dungeon crawler. It's going to have multiplayer. It's probably going to have co-op. Seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. And I got really excited for that title. Like, it was one of the things that I was most excited for in that presentation. And I think that sentiment was echoed through a lot of people in the industry. But later on, I completely started somewhat losing interest in Deep Down due to the fact that they announced it was going to be a free-to-play. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not totally against free-to-play titles. I just feel that there are so many companies that just don't know how to do a free-to-play title that, putting a game just free-to-play, it's not just about having a title that's free-to-play is where I'm getting at. Like, sure, your title can be free-to-play. Does that mean that it's a good title just because more people are allowed to play it? I wouldn't necessarily agree to that, particularly because a lot of times companies put in like all kinds of weird paywalls and just stuff that completely turns me off from a gameplay standpoint. It's like, basically they make you feel as if you don't pay, you're missing out on the experience. And it's interesting because the games that I've actually spent money on that were free to play were actually titles that never really made me feel that. These are titles that never really made me feel like, oh, if you pay, you're going to get this much better stuff. No, these were always titles that's like, look, you don't have to pay. If you do pay, you're going to get this, but you don't really have to do it, and you're not really missing out on that much. Like, for instance, you go to Warframe. I never really felt that I had to pay for anything in Warframe because, as far as I'm aware, you can pretty much build everything, or at least last time I played, you could pretty much craft everything and find everything if you dedicate yourself to doing, doing whatever it is that you want to do, to build a specific Warframe, to build a specific weapon. Like, nothing is really behind a paywall per se, as much as I can remember. But the reason I gave money to that title was mostly to support development because, in all honesty, I still have 1,000-something platinum in my account that I've never really spent. The only thing I spent money on was the Rurikhan reactors or whatever, which were these things that you could use to upgrade your armors, and you could get these by playing regularly. It was kind of like a shortcut. That was the only thing I ever really spent money on in that title. So that is one of the ways that you can do it right. The other thing is, like, for instance, in League of Legends, where you can basically get as many points as you want and buy all the heroes if you want to. It takes a lot of time, yes, but you can do it if you really want to. If you have the time to go ahead and basically play matches, get points, and you buy the heroes that you want to. It's literally that simple. And I never really felt the need that I had to pay, yet I spent like 50 euros on that game so that I could buy, I think I bought maybe 1 or 2 skins, and the rest I just bought heroes. I bought some heroes whenever they were discounted, and I've never felt the need to spend money. And you see, this is where free-to-play is done right, where you don't feel the need to pay money. Where free-to-play is made wrong, in my personal opinion, is like what they did with SWTOR, which was ridiculous to the point, it still is ridiculous to the point where it's like you finish a quest and the game tells you, aha, if you were a subscriber or if you were paying for this whatever plan, you would get additional rewards, but since you're not giving us money, you get nothing. You know what I mean? That is when you start, instead of letting players play, you're starting to deny stuff to players. And that is what I fear is going to happen in Deep Down. And the reason why I feel that is particularly because of the interview that I've been telling you guys about. So one of the questions in that interview is, what kind of gameplay can we expect from Deep Down? And Yoshinori Ono said, when we develop an online game, we aim to create a game that allows people already playing it to continue enjoying it. At the same time, we try to avoid boosting the number of players just for the sake of getting new people to play. I don't necessarily understand this sentence, but whatever. Then he goes on to say the game Deep Down is provided free of charge, but players are required to pay for additional items and other content. To ensure people playing the game don't lose interest, we will keep working to deliver stable long-term services. So here's the first problem, and this might either be something that gets lost in translation, or maybe I'm getting the wrong idea, but I mean the words that are in this interview, and this is on an official Capcom website. Make sure to remind me if I don't post the link below so that I could go ahead and put that link there so that you guys can see for yourselves. The official wording on a Capcom website here is, but players are required to pay for additional items. I'm assuming that these items can either be weapons, pieces of armor, keys for special chests, or that unlock certain areas in a dungeon that are going to be locked off unless you pay that fee, and other game content, which means that there is actually going to be a paywall that will most likely separate paying customers from people that are actually playing the game for what it says on the box, which is free-to-play title. And again, like, I have a serious problem when a free-to-play game, like, because they said this is a free-to-play game, and then they say in an interview, required to pay for additional items. Like, when you play League of Legends, for instance, you're not required to pay for anything. As a matter of fact, you can acquire as many champions as you want, and nobody can get an unfair advantage from paying money. As a matter of fact, last time I played League of Legends, which was a long time ago, you couldn't even buy runes with real money, runes are something that basically you use to upgrade whatever hero you happen to be playing. And it's like you couldn't even pay to get these items. You have to actually play the game, get a specific amount of points in the game, and those points are what you're going to use to buy these runes. So as you can see, like, from a competitive standpoint, someone who plays League of Legends for free has the exact same chances to beat someone who is playing League of Legends and is buying champions or whatever. And again, you're not required to pay for anything. And here it already says you're required to pay for additional items and other game content. I have a problem with this because, I mean, for starters, I have a problem that the game is free to play because I wanted Deep Down to be a $60 title. I'll be honest, I wanted it. I wanted this to be a $60 title so that I wouldn't have to worry about this whole nickel and diming, because usually what ends up happening is free-to-play games are more often than not more expensive than, full-fledged titles. That's just a fact of life. Some people are going to argue with me, oh, but I play this game for free and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, yeah. But if you were to pay for anything in that game, most likely you would spend more money than you would on any regular game. That is just the way that free-to-plays tend to work. And Capcom has shown that they really, really, really like DLC. So the microtransactions in Deep Down, I'm not that convinced that they're going to be, just cosmetic and convenience, which is supposed to be what microtransactions are for, is cosmetic reasons and convenience. But here, as we can clearly see, required to pay. I think that's a problem. Personally, I think that's a problem. Anyways, they then go on to say, you introduce a microtransaction system through which users can purchase additional items. What's your take on digitally distributed content, also known as DLC? And he went on to say, DLC is essentially a form of paid service that enables users to continuously get the most out of their games. In the past, we didn't offer DLC, but instead sold sequels or updates as packaged versions. With a game like Street Fighter, we ended up releasing new packaged updates about 3 times a year. Reflecting back now, that sounds like a lot of updates for a packaged title. But basically, that's the idea behind DLC. I don't think the emergence of DLC was something that came about suddenly. It's just merely become easier to distribute additional elements and content on the computer system level. Basically, we're seeing a new form of something that existed all along. Gonna have to go ahead and disagree with that too. Don't really agree with the whole thing that something that existed all along. No, I think expansion packs were very different from DLC. They were very different from DLC because these days we see DLC in the form of like, oh, get this new skin for your hero, which took us like, I don't know, an entirety of maybe 1 hour to paint on top of your hero. It's basically a coat of paint. Basically, you can buy that now for 99 cents or $5, depending on which title we're referring to. And I'm not just talking about Capcom here. There's so many titles that are guilty of this. And I don't think that's okay. Because that is most clearly not an expansion pack. That is adding very little value to the game. And it's just not something worthwhile. Now, this might vary from person to person. Some people might think it's okay. Whatever. This is my personal opinion. I don't think that stuff like skin packs and whatever should even be invented, let alone be sold to other people. But on top of that, I definitely don't think that they should make all those updates onto Street Fighter. Because, I mean, what you really should be doing is just focus on patching the game for esports purposes, because maybe a lot of people don't know about this, but Street Fighter has a really big esports scene, and that is the reason why Capcom effectively needs to patch Street Fighter to prevent unbalances from forming within the game when people suddenly discover this ultra-powerful combo that nobody really thought of that can knock out someone once they just get with single hit in. You know, when that kind of stuff happens, obviously Capcom needs to go in and patch it. What they don't need to do is start developing new characters for their game and adding those characters. Instead, what they should be focusing their efforts on is just working on new games. This is my personal opinion, and maybe it doesn't reflect everyone's opinion, but the fact of the matter, the fact that we have Super Street Fighter 4, and then we have Super Street Fighter 4, we have Street Fighter 4, then we have Super Street Fighter 4, then we have Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade, then maybe Super Street Fighter 4 Hyper Turbo Mode Engaged, Hyper 3 Fighter Alpha, whatever, and I think they're coming up with a new one, which is Super Street Fighter 4 Ultra, and it's like, I'm sorry, maybe that's too many Street Fighters. I don't know. Maybe it's just my opinion, but I feel that instead of making 5 different Street Fighter 4 titles, maybe you could have done one, and then maybe like a Dark Arisen version of Super Street Fighter 4, and that's it, like tops. Like maybe you could have done Super Street Fighter 4 and then Super Street Fighter 4 Ultra and just be done with it, instead of making like all these different versions with different DLCs and God knows what else, which is eventually what I feel is going to happen with Deep Down. Not like this, obviously, because Deep Down, since it's going to be a free-to-play title, they're basically just going to be like, oh, get the Lava Dungeon Pack, get the Sand Dungeon Pack, or the Desert Dungeon Pack, and then get the Jungle Dungeon Pack. And, it's going to be like all these things, and you're going to have to like, oh, so what? You're tired of the usual castle-looking dungeons? Well, now you can go to the sand dungeons and the forest dungeons and whatever. And I don't think that's the way to go about it, because you're going to basically close out a lot of people who are not going to be willing to spend that money. Not to mention, if on top of that, you're going to be charging people for items like weapons and armor, that is most likely going to affect drop rates, which in a dungeon crawl game, if you're going to tell me that the drop rates are going to be messed up because you expect me to actually spend money on my character, well, what is the point of even playing the game? This is one of the reasons why I stopped playing Diablo 3, if you guys remember correctly. It was the fact that I wasn't able to actually get my items through drops. I would basically be better off going to the auction house constantly. And here's the thing, I wasn't even spending real life money on the auction house. I was just, I was going to the game, farming gold, then I would grab that gold and buy new gear for my character. And that just destroys the whole mechanic of a dungeon crawler, because you want to go to dungeons because it's fun to go to dungeons and kill monsters, because it's fun to then get loot from them. These things don't exist like in separate. It's not like, oh, I go to dungeons because I just want to kill monsters. No, I go to dungeons because it is fun to kill monsters, but I also want to get loot from them. It's also not, I go to dungeons so that I can go get loot. No. I go to dungeons because I want to get loot, but I also want to kill the monsters for that loot. It's a reward system, you see? You go there, you kill monsters, which is fun, and then you get rewarded with loot. And the problem with these free-to-play titles is that they usually just mess about with the drop tables and they just kind of get you to go to the online store to buy the items that you want. And it's like, it's a major turnoff because it destroys the whole system. As a matter of fact, the Diablo 3 developers recognize this because in Reaper of Souls, they just said there isn't going to be an auction house. Why do you think that happened? Because people probably got tired of playing the game because the drops weren't dropping. And this, I fear, is also going to happen in Deep Down. And again, maybe it's too early for this. Maybe it's too early, but please note that the words that say in the very first question is these items are required for you to continue to play and access other game content. I really do miss the days where we had just $60 titles and just be done with it, you know? As opposed to this, oh, and now you get this DLC. And you never know if a game that you buy is going to be complete when you buy it. And that was something that even today as I was doing research, because I was just going to kind of slam it in Capcom's face, a statement that I think his name is Takeshi Miyazaki from Dark Souls 2, a statement that he said, we don't have any plans for DLC in Dark Souls 2 because we want people to just have, you know, they want to release a full game and people buy that full game and that's that. And I was really happy about that. And today when I went to look up that particular statement, there were a bunch of other news articles where apparently it said there is potential for DLC. And I was like, oh my God, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Oh man. But I'm kind of derailing. Anyways, the next question was, what's Capcom's stance on the development of DLC? And Yoshinori Ono's answer was, we hope to provide a large variety of content at reasonable prices. Look at this, a large variety of content at reasonable prices that is in line with what people like. The important thing is not viewing DLC as a form of added value, but as a system that we're supposed to have. DLC is added value. It is adding value to the game, essentially. That is what DLC is. That is the definition of DLC. It is added value for a title that you already own. So the fact of the matter is, don't see it as a form of added value. It's just the system that you're supposed to have. No, you do not get to have these systems where you just flat out update your game like whenever you feel like you need some money. And not to mention that even Blizzard is guilty of abusing microtransactions quite a bit, due to the fact that they have a game that people have to pay a price for the box, and then people have to pay a subscription fee, and then on top of that, they still have exclusive items on the store that whenever they feel they need money, they're just like, oh, pop another, what did Total Biscuit used to call it? Sparkle Pony? Pop another Sparkle Pony in the store, and that thing made them like millions of dollars, just like a stupid mount that looks like ass. But anyways, yeah, I don't think that that is the way people need to see things. It's not a system that you're supposed to have. You're supposed to develop full games and just give us full games. I don't think that gamers actually want this. We don't want this this nickel and diming. We don't want it. And it's like, look, if you think that you're not going to make enough profit off of your game from the $60, then whatever, sell it at $70. Is that what you want? Sell it at $70. I would honestly, I'm at a point where it's like, look, I'll pay $70 if the title is worth it. I will pay $70 for it and whatever. Just don't nickel and dime me because you want $60 and then you want $5 here and $10 there and $20 next month. And no, just stop. Just stop this nickel and diming. This is not just for Capcom. This is for everyone. Please stop nickel and diming us. I can't fucking take it anymore. I really can't. It's just really hard. Anyways, the other question is, do you develop DLC while you're working on the main game? Oh boy, here it comes. There are some things we develop at the same time. And there's other stuff we create after the release of the full title. The best thing to do, and oh my God, this is so bad. The best thing to do is monitor trends in the days immediately following a game's release and then put out DLC which reflects these trends within a month. They even have a formula down for it at this point. It's like, within a month, we got to release DLC. That's that. We just got to release DLC within a month. Doesn't matter. We just see what people liked about the game, and we come up with DLC in a month. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just I can't support these practices. Anyways, problems occur when something we developed completely from scratch fails to match what people need. That's the advantage of DLC. It gives us an opportunity to monitor trends before we make a decision. You want to monitor trends? I'll tell you what you got to do to monitor trends. It's pretty easy. Allow people to talk about your game, as in do not put an NDA on it, and throw out a beta. There, you'll get all the trends you need before the game is even released. Isn't that an advantage? I don't know. I mean, you'd almost think that I'm a friggin' genius to come up with a solution like this. You put out a beta, you don't put out an NDA, you just tell people, look, this is a beta. People aren't dumb these days. Just don't make them pay for it, which is what's happening in a lot of these cases. Like, oh, early access. No early access, no bullshit. Just come up with a beta and ask people for feedback. Ask gamers. Gamers will tell you what they like and what they don't like, at which point you can adjust your game accordingly and release the title. Isn't that amazing? The things that internet allows us to do if we just put our minds to it. God damn. Instead, what you're going to do is you're going to release a title which you're not entirely sure that the audience is going to enjoy, and then you're going to gather feedback after the title is released, at which point you will then release DLC for that title to fix the problems that the game has. Sorry, it just seems like maybe a backwards way of thinking about stuff. That could just be me, though. It seems that analyzing user trends has become even more important. Absolutely. There's no point in making a service people don't need. Even if the service is made available for free, no one will use it if it serves no purpose. Demand for a paid service naturally emerges if people feel it's something they need. Do you really want to know what the people need, Capcom? We need you to just do your games and not nickel and dime us with DLC and just give up on this whole free-to-play thing. That's what we need. Because it's like, you want to know what I personally want out of Capcom? I want a Monster Hunter for my PlayStation 3 or my PlayStation 4. That's what I want out of Capcom. I don't want any more Resident Evils, which you've done God knows how many. You could do more of the Platinum Games Devil May Cry, because that was pretty good. I really enjoyed that one. Even though there's a lot of people who didn't enjoy it, I think a lot more people enjoyed it. But then again, that one is a little bit controversial. But in reality, what a lot of people actually want is a Monster Hunter game on PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4. Or we want Dragon's Dogma 2. Yeah, we'd like Dragon's Dogma 2 because Dragon's Dogma 1 was pretty friggin' amazing. So considering that you guys only did, what was it, 70% or 30% of what you want? I don't know. It was something like that you guys didn't really get to do everything you wanted with Dragon's Dogma. Well, release a new one. And instead of putting out like tons and tons and tons of DLC for it, just make one game and then move on. Do you think people want mobile games? Do you think the same people that like bought Monster Hunter 4? Because if you guys don't know, a while back when Capcom released Monster Hunter 4 in Japan, they sold millions of copies, which also caused millions of 3DSs to be sold. And they've basically invested all that money into a mobile games division. At least that's what I read somewhere on the internet, which could be a lie, I don't know. But if it is true, if you really did pick up all the millions that you've made off of Monster Hunter 4 in Japan, and you've invested it all in a mobile games division, I really have to question your strategy. Because it really has me thinking, like, what the fuck are you thinking? I mean, really, like, we made so much money off of Monster Hunter 4. Let's go develop mobile games. What? And it's like, I think that a lot of people seem to think that mobile game is this amazing gaming market and like everybody wants to go mobile. It's like mobile games have that much success, like let's say Angry Birds level, because these are games that aren't actually played by a lot of gamers per se. These are games that are played by people who are waiting for something at a hospital, or waiting for something, waiting for a bus, waiting for a train. And they're popular because everyone has them. Everyone's playing a demo. Everyone's whatever. And if people get into them enough, they might eventually buy them. But the thing that they really also like about those titles is that they cost like, what, 99 cents, $5, probably the most expensive one. I don't think there is that much money to be made in the mobile sector right now, particularly because there's like a bazillion people trying to get into that sector right now. So, I mean, I just keep wondering, like, is there some kind of exclusivity deal between Nintendo and Capcom? There has to be. At the end of the day, there has to be, because why wouldn't you release a Monster Hunter title on Xbox One or on PlayStation 4? It's like one of the most hardcore titles ever in existence only gets released on the Wii U, which is supposedly one of the most casual consoles in the market. I just don't get this logic. Anyways, I'm already way off topic. At the end of the day, the problem here is that deep down, I don't think is going to do Capcom any good if they're going to be charging people for items like weapons, armors, or keys to open chests. And I definitely don't think it's going to do them any good if they're going to sell like, oh, the lava dungeon pack or the desert dungeon pack. I just don't know. And at the end of the day, I'm not making this video because I hate Capcom or anything. I mean, it would be pretty dumb of me to be hating on Capcom while at the same time doing a full playthrough on one of their games. I love Capcom. I love a lot of their titles. I just think that their recent business practices are going to lead them to sink themselves even more than they already are. And I really, really don't want that to happen. Because I want to see Deep Down do good. I really want to, but I don't want Deep Down to be nickel and diming me. If that's what it's going to take for it to do good, it might as well go deep down right now, because I won't care. You know, I want to see Dragon's Dogma 2. I want to see a Monster Hunter game that comes to the PC platform or the PlayStation platform or the Xbox platform, and not just Nintendo platforms. You know, I want to see a Monster Hunter game. Capcom, what are you doing? Leave me your comments and feedback in the comment section below, everyone. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.